What I understand, there's a group of students in the Netherlands. They've developed this car to basically remove CO2. So it's meant to be a carbon neutral electric vehicle. So whatever it does emit or whatever it's manufactured with that emits that CO2, it's meant to neutralize that, like balance it, if you will. And they go on to talk about how, and it's called ZEM, which I found that to be an interesting kind of name for it. But basically, if you read on, it goes to talk about how it's actually capturing it. And it's basically like where the grill is, it has a special type of filter meant to pick up that CO2. And over the I think they give a gauge. Yeah, so they give you a little bit of a breakdown. So it's 2 kilos of CO2 for every 20,000 miles that it travels. So think of it, I think on average, if you're really hauling butt, I think you could potentially average, if I back it up into leasing terms, it's usually a 10 to 15,000 mile a year kind of quota. So you're pushing it a little bit higher than that in terms of year round. So you're likely commuting everywhere and all of that with this vehicle to kind of meet those needs. Of course, that's US mindset where I'm at. You have to drive everywhere. Public transportation is not the best. But we're slowly improving. It's just where we are. It's a big area, and our metros our major cities are not very close together. If that gives you any kind of hint as to where I live. Anyways, so basically it's taking that kind of 20,000 miles a year. That's almost like they equate it to how much a tree could capture in that same time frame, to give you a gauge. So trees are very much like carbon eaters, if you will. And so it's kind of cool to see that, in terms of doing something good while still, driving around as needed, things like that. It's very much still in the proof of concept phase, because I think they mentioned it can only travel like 35 miles an hour or something like that. So it's very much like drive it around the local streets. Don't get on the highway. Don't be that person in this car. So kind of summing, yeah, here it is. They talk about the average speed. So it's 37 miles an hour. My bad. So they've already kind of talked about what their next steps are in terms of like how they want to improve this or enhance it. Kind of digging around for more information. They didn't have any videos as reference for this just yet, but I mean, this was dated back in July, so I'm assuming if they can get like the speeds up to at least 60 miles an hour, I say that like it's nothing, then that's something they could probably start testing more widely. But this is also in the Netherlands too, where these students are building out this car. So yeah, like here's a quote about it. It is really still a proof of concept, but we can already see that we will be able to increase the capacity. So that's great. They can see how it scales. Capacity of the filter in the coming years. Capturing CO2 is a prerequisite for compensating for emissions during production and recycling. Okay, all right. Let's see. That may not seem like much, but overall payoff is significant if you were to soon implement in a large scale in every passenger car. After all, there are more than 1 billion passenger cars driving around the world. Yeah, that's crazy to think about. So, students plan to... Okay, how are they planning it? Oh, okay, interesting. The team envisions a future where a full filter can be... And this is probably a key thing, because you don't want it to be like too inconvenient for people to dump out the filter. So it's kind of cool that the filter can actually be reused. Very much, and setting it up with your charging station just makes it that much easier. It's just It's one extra thing that you have to do. Like if you're on a road trip, you're likely going to be wiping off your windshield anyways because of all of the bugs you've probably killed along the way. So yeah, ideally like putting a place to empty out that filter with the charging station just makes it that much more efficient. And it can travel 320 kilometers before the filter is full and requires emptying. So they've already got the mechanic where like the filter is reusable. So that's pretty cool. That's neat. This is pretty cool. I know there's other means of tech out there that's starting to scratch the surface of, you know, removing the CO2 that we're putting into the atmosphere and things like that. What was really cool is on the way to the gym yesterday, the city where the gym is located, they were starting to pretty much where our roads are. There's you have the off ramp and the on ramp, and there's like these two hills, if you will, that the road's been built into. And what they're doing now is they're starting to plant, like they were planting a shit ton of trees yesterday. So not like we're going to see it in our lifetime, the true benefits of having those trees like grow and do what they can. But it was still very exciting to see, like, there's nothing like that plot of land you're not going to be able to do a whole lot with. So why not, you know, plant some trees? So that was cool. It was a nice touch. It'll be pretty. I mean, they're teeny tiny little baby trees, so it's going to take years before they, you know, become teenagers, if you will. But it was still really cool to see that was kind of a change of pace. This next one is interesting. And it's about a woman who can smell Parkinson's disease. Yeah, so this one caught my eye because her sense of smell, interesting, can detect this disease. Like, there's no cure for this disease still, but it has helped scientists move the needle forward in earlier detection. So this one I did have a little like short video about like her take on everything. So I guess like high level. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was surprised by this article. So I think, okay, this one's a little more recent, so it was September. But I think the video is actually a couple years old. Yeah, it's like 4 years old. Okay. So this news outlet just recently started talking about it. So basically what she's been able to help scientists with is successfully describe kind of the scent of it. And I'm talking like, she goes on to say that she knew about it. Yeah, down here at the bottom, it says specifically, she had the ability to detect Parkinson's after sniffing the disease on her husband 12 years before he was officially diagnosed. That's nuts. That is way early detection. So let's go ahead and switch over to, let me pause this real quick. I think where we want to go is let's see. I think there's one specific question. Yeah. So we'll start like right here.
It's heavy, thick musk smell, very different. People with Parkinson's and their carers and their families, they will tell you that smell is there. I smelt it 10 to 12 years before I was diagnosed. As the Parkinson's got worse, the smell got worse, and it became just part of him. But I, with my sensitive sense, I could smell it all the time, and it became quite uncomfortable, really. But I had the sense not to nag too much. We just
Yeah. So, spoiler alert, her husband had already passed at this point, but she described the scent being like a very musky smell. And she, she even said like I was able to detect this like over a decade before the doctors diagnosed him with it. And they go on to say like by the time they're diagnosed, they're already showing symptoms. By like I think they're already running into mobility issues by the time they're able to diagnose a person that has Parkinson's. And like you saw, there's no cure for it, which is, rather unfortunate. But what this helps them, and what they go on to the test that she was given in order to truly test, like, can you really detect this? So it goes on. I think they really cover it more in the video. She's given different samples basically of people that either already have Parkinson's, that have it in their family, or the control group of, they're not meant to show it. So maybe they're much younger adults, things like that. And so she, like, because she was successful in that testing and was pretty accurate, they were able to replicate this test pretty much. And it kind of talks about it down here. Patients with Parkinson's were tested as well as a healthy control group. The test had an amazing 95% accuracy in test conditions. The scientists found 4,000 compounds, of which 500 were different between those with Parkinson's and those in the control group. So, I mean, this isn't going to cure Parkinson's, but it's definitely going to help move science along with this disease in terms of, okay, now we can detect very, very early on. So how can we, like, the next step building up from there, how can we help mitigate the side effects, the symptoms, and, the overall life expectancy? How can we like delay that or improve it to eventually ideally get to where we have a cure for it, and it becomes, like a shot or a pill you're taking a couple times, and Parkinson's isn't an issue any longer. So I thought this was very interesting because she described it. She's got a sense of smell that is heightened from what normal, traditional humans, if you will, have versus a dog's sense of smell. So she's somewhere in between to be able to sense this, if you will. And she was a nurse, he was a doctor. So she was very much likely around these patients that had Parkinson's for a long time, like over her career, to say like she knows what it is. And then the fact that she's able to tell other families, like, have you ever noticed this scent, this specific scent? And them to say like, yes, actually that's a common thing. So yeah, I thought that was just amazing. Yeah, all the things, sense of smell gets it. So yeah. The next one, so this next one was interesting for a different reason. So it's about drones, and what I guess these scientists are doing is building edible drones. So what that means is it's meant to find survivors or people that are lost in remote areas, that this drone ultimately, I would assume, would be able to, like, if you can put a GPS tracker or something on it, to identify where they are, or a camera, something of sorts, to get to the people that are like lost, like stuck in these remote areas. But overall, the drone is meant to be edible, so that they have at least like one more meal to get them through, kind of thing. And so This one came out this past week, and there's a short little video that TechWiki had just posted the day before yesterday, or yesterday. I think it may have been yesterday, but I mean, like it was hours ago basically that they had posted the video. So, and that one's a quick little short video. I don't think we're gonna watch all of it, but yeah. So what these guys have done is, like, you'll see kind of a picture of it back here in the background. The video gives you a little bit better idea of like what it looks like, but and maybe actually my article has the picture. So you'll see the wings are basically these little rice cakes, and they chose rice cakes for the sake of it being super light, and super light for the drone to be able to maneuver without being overweighted or anything like that. So what they've done is the specific like hexagon shape that you see of the rice cakes, and I might be able to zoom in so you can see a little bit better. The rice cakes. So I don't understand the reasoning for it to be in this particular shape. I think it's meant to, I guess it's likely easier to piece together kind of in that shape in order to make the wings a little more balanced, if you will. But what's coated to them, what's gluing them together, is gelatin. So what they had tested with was like chocolate and cornstarch. So they tried it with, let me zoom out because that's like hella in your face. What they found was the best kind of adhesive was going to be the gelatin versus cornstarch or cornstarch with chocolate. So they trialed it with all three of these, and gelatin was the best one that had like the strongest properties to keep everything together. And then they also had like a wrapping to this, because obviously you don't want a whole lot of random crap getting onto this. You want it to be as okay as possible, because rice cakes are still flimsy enough to break off. So they have some kind of like wrapping to keep that together, and plus it's meant to like feed the individual it's being dropped to. So yeah, I thought it was really interesting that they kind of made the wings in this way. And I saw a comment come through in chat, for these drones, I wonder their plans against the birds. That was one of the things I was wondering too, because I mean the plastic wrap helps, but I don't know, like you still need a way to, I don't know, see where the drone's going, and then it still has to be under ideal circumstances. You can't just launch this thing into a blizzard, right? Like it's gonna get eaten alive by wind, snow, like you name it. So if it's just remote areas, it would be, I don't know, people taking a hike and they're lost in the forest. I don't know, because I don't even think this would be doable for like I guess the mountains, but again, like if it's blizzard standards, like that's gonna be a lot. It's not ideal. This thing would have to be way more durable. And again, I think it's still very early on for this kind of thing. It's still neat that this is kind of a concept that's being tested, because yeah, I mean, drones can be beneficial. You can't carry a lot on them. I mean, unless you're like the Amazon delivery drones, those kind of things. But obviously, like two different use cases, and one's very much more like localized to that city or that town, versus like this could be used in very much different ways. But what they're doing, and I think, yeah, a team at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne, I think. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah, so this drone, like, here's the rice cakes if they're unwrapped. So the other thing that they're testing is making the entire drone edible. So utilizing a 3D printer basically to I just realized, whatever. Utilizing a 3D printer with edible components of like the rest of the drone. So like the tail, maybe the like some of the parts itself being edible, mainly the plastic parts, but making it as useful to that survivor as possible. And I think they go on to say that, yeah, so here it says the wingspan of about 27 inches results in enough rice cake and gelatin glue to deliver the equivalent of one breakfast serving, with about 80 grams remaining for a payload of vitamins or water. So, I mean, it's not, it's not a huge course meal or anything like that, but it's enough that could be the difference between living and dying, between someone like being stuck there and them being rescued in that amount of time, So, had buffering. Sorry for the message delayed. Ooh, drones. What flavors? Right? I have no idea. I would not expect it to be anything fancy flavored by any means, but if it saves my butt while I'm out and like stranded in the wilderness, I'll take it, So yeah, let me jump over to this. Yeah, it's about 2 minutes long, but I think we can like jump into like here.
For a landing, you can eat the wings and drink the water, or take the medicine it's carrying to hold you over until help arrives. In concept, that could happen. The Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne, EPFL, has created a prototype edible drone. The robot that can be eaten is a component of a larger initiative.
Tortilla chips and bread.
RoboFood aims to investigate robots that can be eaten by humans and animals, as well as foods with robotic characteristics. With the title Towards Edible Drones for Rescue Missions, Design and Flight of Nutritional Wings, the group released their research results online. The study is working to solve the issue of getting commercial drones to carry a substantial enough payload to aid those in need during emergencies. The design incorporates a few elements reminiscent of actual aircraft, but the 300-calorie fixed wing is actually made out of rice cakes and gelatin. According to an interview with Bokian Kwok, the drone tastes like a crunchy Rice Crisp cookie with a little touch of raw gelatin.
There you go, Tomic. That's what it tastes like.
Kwok described it to IEEE Spectrum. It would probably taste great if you were hungry and stranded. The researchers used a laser cutter to shape and thin out round rice cakes, and then they glued the cakes together using gelatin to form a sturdy wing structure. This rice is robust without being heavy, and it still manages to be reasonably nourishing. Even though the drone would be a one-way street, its semi-edible composition would ensure that it would leave behind minimal waste. That's it for today, and as always, make sure to like, subscribe, and check our website at www.techwiki.co. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. I mean, edible drone saves getting up and going to the kitchen. Just fly to your couch, bed, streaming room. So many different use cases, right? That's funny. But yeah, I thought this was interesting and a little different in terms of kind of the tech being built out there. But I mean, we have 3D printers. What's not to say we can't like get to where it's made out of these edible, materials in general. So the last one I have is rather cute. And I know some people have played this game already in chat, but it's really cute because it's about the game Stray. So, well, it's related to the game Stray. So one of the developers behind the game has helped raise money for homeless cats. So I know I had an article last week about a kitty that that traveled, shoot, I forgot, it was hundreds of miles, because they like wanted to be reunited with their family. And so I'm just keeping the kitty talk alive. So I haven't read through this article, so I'm just gonna kind of skim it and call it out. So Yeah, so one of the developers has helped charities for homeless cats raise money. It gives you the premise of Stray, like the cat's separated from its family, it's trying to be reunited. It learns more about these robots and machines to help them, get through the city and get back to eventually, assuming back to their family. Players donated $5 to be entered into a competition to win a copy of the game. The charities involved are Nebraska Humane Society and Cats Protection, a UK cat charity. Huh. I would have guessed based on that name it was in Nebraska. Okay. As the competition drew to a close, Nebraska Humane Society raised $7,000 from 560 donations. Like that could make a difference. That could be a lot of food. That could be a number of things for cats. So obviously a very short article, but still really cute to see. There was kind of funding going on in lieu of Stray coming out. So this one came out in August. So I think Stray came out in June or July. I remember playing it over the summer. So yeah, I thought that was really cool to see.